I'm just walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. Oh, it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong. My life was lonely and blue. Yeah, I was sad as a sailor. I was an angry one too.
Hello, welcome to Rescue Roundtable. I'm Mary Catalano, and I'm here today with some great guests that we've had before. Both of them actually are returning guests involved in more and more animal issues. And I'd like to welcome Carole Raphaelle Davis and Bill Dyer, both involved with In Defense of Animals, Los Angeles. And they're both involved with the puppy mill protests that they've been shutting down some pet stores here in Los Angeles, which is fantastic. And the movement is growing and growing, and you have a lot of great information about this. I was going to show a little clip about, we have a little clip here of some of the footage that my producer Jeff took at the last puppy bill protest, which is at the Pets of Bel Air. Is that where you're going there today? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to show a little bit of that if you're ready. We have some information about the USDA and the minimal requirements for the care of these animals in the puppy mills.
Behind the scenes picture of the cute puppy in the window is a horrible, horrible situation of puppy mills all over the country, really. They're here in California, they're in the Midwest, they're certainly back east in Pennsylvania and Virginia. And in the regulations that oversee puppy mills from the USDA are nominal. They're insignificant. They provide no protection for the animals whatsoever.
These dogs just aren't well taken care of. They don't get any kind of medical treatment at all. They're just used to breed and breed and breed basically until they die. So it's just real sad the way they take care of these animals or the way they don't take care of them.
Go stand in front of a wall 6 inches away from the wall for 5 minutes. Just give yourself the puppy mill test and see what that's like to stand in front of a wall for 5 minutes. And then imagine what that's like if you spent your entire life in front of that wall. And that's what it's like for a puppy mill dog.
Please adopt or rescue. It's a lot better, it's a lot cheaper, and the dogs really need homes right now.
So that was thanks to DoggyTV. So what is the problem? What is the problem with the puppy mills? Bill, tell us from your point of view. I mean,
where do I start?
Yeah, where do you start? What's going
on?
on? You two have been doing these protests, and you found out some information.
It's endless. Well, it's a big industry. It's, again, and when you look at animal abuse, animal exploitation, it's all about one thing, and that's money.
Mm-hmm.
These animals that are born in these puppy mills across the United States are shipped here, and they go for like anywhere from like $1,000 to $5,000. These purebred dogs,
right?
And they're bred endlessly. The mothers give how many?
Twice a year they're bred.
For how many years? For one mother?
Until they're dead, until they can no longer produce. And then I've heard terrible instances from ex-inspectors turned investigators who've said that they use the dead dogs as mulch. They kill them inhumanely. They put a bullet to their head, or they slam them against a wall and kill them that way, because it costs about $20 to euthanize these dogs, these breeding dogs, humanely. So very often at the end of the breeding, they'll either auction them off for almost nothing, $10 at an auction, or they'll kill them themselves. It's a horrendous business. A horrendous business.
Yeah.
There's also cats involved. There's puppy mills for cats, so they're involved as well. So it's both cats and dogs, and it's a terrible, terrible problem. And we understand today. Somebody was mentioning that there's some interest in Congress because of the program of Oprah Winfrey, who did a whole hour on puppy mills, and so there's some interest with some senators and representatives in Washington about some legislation. It'd be great if we could just eliminate these puppy mills on the basis of animal cruelty, and so we don't have to be protesting. We're going from pet shop to pet shop that have these animals. The other exploitation, the part that makes them wanted, is the Paris Hiltons and all those ladies who carry them around like little props, the little designer dogs, and so a lot of people go buy them because they want to emulate these airheads that they're wearing dogs.
It's
It's
a
an
really terrible
accessory.
thing. Yeah,
That's what it is.
The dogs now, as fashion accessory,
Yeah.
has propelled the puppy mills into overdrive. And these celebritards like Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton, Britney Spears, these women have done so much harm to dogs inadvertently.
Yes.
And now I can no longer say that it's inadvertent because they have to be aware that the puppy mill issue is a mainstream issue since Oprah Winfrey's show. 40 million people watch that show. I'm pretty sure anyone who looks at a newspaper or a magazine or even television and the internet knows, everyone knows what a puppy mill is now. So these women have done so much harm to animals by, first of all, buying them and contributing to animal cruelty and contributing to puppy mills in general. But millions of young girls want to copy these pinheads. And I've seen in investigations of pet stores here in LA, I have seen young girls walk into pet stores as young as 8, 9, 10 years old going, Mommy, Mommy, I want a Yorkie. I want that Yorkie now. And the mom wants to give her daughter the best, thinking that that's the best when, in fact, it's not at all. And we'll plop down here in Beverly Hills and in Bel Air $4,000 on a dog that will have congenital diseases and behavioral issues, and the dog whose parents are imprisoned in a canine supermax prison.
So describe the puppy mills again, because some people still, again, they didn't get to see the Oprah show. They don't know the conditions. It's really hard to imagine unless you see it. But describe what how they're living their entire lives. We're talking about their entire lives.
The mothers, yes.
Yes,
it's not just the mothers of the dogs, although I would say it's mostly the mothers, and they keep some males, but one male can inseminate many females. So when you look at the proportions of females to males in breeding facilities, it's usually almost all females. But the males are abused too. They're imprisoned as well. I think of them as canine supermax prisons. They never get out. They go everywhere from dilapidated shacks outside, these kinds of just cages outdoors where they're exposed to the elements with as little as, 30 or 40 dogs, all the way up to 500 dogs and more in real high-tech facilities. You've got all kinds of different levels of facilities. But for the dog inside, it's the same. A lot of people want to make extra money, and so they'll abuse dogs and make extra money. But these dogs don't have any kind of a life. They never get out of their cage. People who are
And how big is the cage?
Well, the USDA regulates the space under the Animal Welfare Act, how much space a dog has in a cage. And it's calculated on the size of the dog, and it has to do with 6 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches. So basically the dog has room to turn around and stretch out. But there's nothing in the books that says that the owner of the breeding facility has to exercise these dogs. There's nothing in there that says that the dogs ever have to get out of the cage. This is what we really object to. We object to the treatment of these dogs. We think dogs deserve better. I mean, we love dogs in America, and if the public knew how the parents of the dogs they buy are treated, they would be absolutely outraged. If you've got a Maltipoo at home, you've got a purebred dog at home, you have to ask yourself now, if you bought this dog on the internet or in a store, you must ask yourself, where are the parents of your dog? How are they living? We know.
Well, we do, and also most of these puppies that are sold or get ill. The new guardian who has adopted this animal from a pet store has fallen in love with it. So they end up spending thousands and thousands of dollars in vet's bills to make the dog well. I think they can return the dog, can't they, to the pet store if they want to? They can.
You were saying
certain
something.
States.
Huh?
I want to address what you just said.
Sure.
In certain states, they can. Here in California, we have the California puppy lemon law, and you can return a dog. It's so awful, I know, to think about a lemon law like it's a car.
Are they responsible for the vet bills?
Yes,
The
they have to
pet
pay
store?
vet bills. But here's the thing. Under the law, a California buyer, and I hate to think of buying these animals. It's so awful when you could adopt them. But you can return the dog. And this is a terrible thing. I would urge anyone who bought a dog, no matter how sick the dog is, please do not return the dog. Hang on to the dog. Bring it to your vet. Keep a record of all of the vet bills and come to us or go to Pet Shop Puppies or petshopcruelty.org, these organizations, because when you return the dog to a pet store that has bought the dog from a wholesaler or a dealer, they can return that dog. And God only knows what's happening to that dog once you return it and it's very sick.
Right.
Imagine if you've got a sick dog with parvo, it could cost you thousands of dollars to treat the dog with really no promises or guarantees that the dog will ever be cured. Okay? So do you really think that a dealer who's got thousands of dogs going out, a broker who's got thousands a week, is actually going to rehabilitate and cure this dog? No. So don't ever return a dog, even though you are legally allowed to do so.
The other situation we have, too, is they don't all come from puppy mills in the Midwest, like Kansas and Texas and Pennsylvania and places like that. Some of them are bred right here in the state of California.
Right.
And those breeders sell them, give them to these pet stores to sell. You know, and the pet store people saying, "Oh, these animals aren't from puppy mills. No, they're from responsible breeders." Well, there isn't a responsible breeder on this earth who's going to give one of their animals over to a pet store and not do home checks and not follow through on the proper way to adopt out an animal.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no responsible breeding when animals are being killed. It's irresponsible to make more animals when animals are being killed.
And they're given out. They're not fixed. They're not, spayed and neutered and all that. What we're trying to do, there's a new law in Los Angeles that makes it mandatory to spay and neuter your dog, that I've been going around to pet stores and at least giving them the ordinance saying, here, please give this to your customers, so they are aware that they have to get this animal fixed.
It's for cats also, cats and dogs,
right. So it's a terrible problem. We're always faced with this. If it isn't this horror, it's some other horror. But there's a lot of pet stores who don't sell animals and who have adoptions from rescue groups on their property, which is a wonderful thing. And these pet stores are in business. They all make money, okay? And it's just wonderful because these animals, a lot of them are from our shelter, and they're rescued from rescue organizations, so it means that they're not going to be killed in the shelter, and people can come to different pet stores and adopt.
And the best thing about that is that the people that have rescued the animals are very familiar with the animal and their behavior and know how to suitably place them.
Exactly.
Like, I screen people for my animals, but I know the personalities because I've had them living with me in my home. I know who they might get along with or might not get along with. I have a dog that loves kitties. I do kitties. It's a great thing to go to a rescue because you can also return the animal to the rescue if it's not the right fit and find another fit that will be a saved animal. And the rescuers will go back and save another animal, which is terrific if they can place one through you. It's good for you to screen with your family, etc. You know which kind of animals are good with children and other animals, etc.
I think
and it's a great thing to do.
Another question should be answered is that person out there who would like a certain kind of animal. There are, well, number one, there are 25% of the animals in our shelters are purebred. Okay. But there are also rescue groups that are breed specific. So if you must have, which is cool, it's okay, not
pug.
Condemning you. If you must have a purebred pug, you can find one, from a rescue group who has those dogs.
An interesting point that relates to what you just said is that a lot of people don't realize that the dogs that are in the shelter, many of those dogs were originally from these breeding facilities. We find all the time with our friends who are breed-specific rescues of pugs and poodle rescue and Yorkie rescue, they go to the shelter where people don't want to go because it's too upsetting to them. The breed-specific rescues will come in and take these dogs out because, frankly and sadly, a lot of people will buy a Yorkie or a poodle or a Labrador retriever and find that it's much too much work. And they don't want the responsibility once they've brought the 8-week-old puppy home and it's pooping and peeing all over the place and chewing up your shoes and your favorite handbag and all of that. And they go, oh, forget it. I can't handle this. And where does it go? It goes right back into the shelter system. So we have to clean up their mess. So then the breed-specific rescue folks thankfully come in. They'll take that dog in, and it's a great place to get a purebred dog if you are indeed looking for a purebred
Right.
dog. Personally, I love mutts.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for a purebred dog, it's a really great way to meet one, foster one, and eventually adopt one, because the breed-specific rescue foster programs all know the personalities
Right.
of these dogs,
Right.
whether or not they get along with cats or birds or
Right.
children, how they are in a crowd, are they good on the leash, are they housebroken. So these dogs get socialized within the foster system. So it's actually better. It makes more sense,
Yeah.
and it's much cheaper than to go and spend $4,000.
Right.
You can donate $200 to adopt a dog from a rescue organization,
Right.
and get the same dog a few months later,
Right.
once it's been socialized.
Right.
So what have we been doing this campaign? We've been going to pet store to eliminate, well, for example, we started with Posh Puppy, right, in
Yes,
Beverly Hills.
in Beverly Hills, yeah.
And they, closed down or?
Well, one thing that's important to note is
Yeah.
that we never wanted to close down any stores,
No.
even though they did close down as a result of public pressure about
The Posh
animal
Puppy.
cruelty.
Oh, okay.
Posh Puppy in Beverly Hills.
Right.
We never wanted to close down any store, and we still don't.
No.
So I want to make it really clear that our mission is to put pressure on stores that are supplied by puppy mills to go humane, to stop selling live animals. And I'm including cats, and I'm including hamsters, and I'm including birds, and all these animals.
So right now we're at a store called Pets of Bel Air, and we're going to be there until they stop selling animals. And then from there we're going to go to another place. And there's another organization in town that is concentrating on some other pet stores. And it's really a campaign of information, of educating the public. That's really what we're doing. It's all very peaceful. We have dignified signs. We have a wonderful flyer that explains what these puppy mills are and why we're there. And it's all, it's all very peaceful and rational and polite as we can be about this terrible subject. But that's what we're doing. And what's happening, I think because of Oprah, is that Carole is getting a lot of communication, email mainly, from groups across the country who are doing what we're doing.
They're starting to do.
And,
I was
and
going to
it's
ask
really
you about
growing.
that. Is it
more
growing
and
throughout the
more
United
and
States?
It is. You talk about
Right?
it.
I get many communications on the phone, on my website, all kinds of emails from people around the country who are fed up, who are animal lovers, and who just don't want to take it anymore. And they've seen our success at Posh Puppy and at Pets of Bel Air, and they have decided to start their own groups all around the country. So now we are nationalizing this campaign with some other organizations that are including In Defense of Animals, Best Friends is doing it, Last Chance for Animals is doing it, Pet Shop Puppies is doing it, the Companion Animal Protection Society is doing it, HSUS. There are so many organizations coming on board now. AwarenessDay.org is doing it, a guy by the name of Walter Hargis, who's in Pennsylvania. So many organizations are reaching out to each other and to us about how do we make these pet stores go humane. We'd like to see a country that doesn't abuse animals in pet factories anymore. Because like when you go to the shoe store, shoes at the shoe store are from shoe factories, and pets at the pet store are from pet factories. And they're way worse than sweatshops. These animals are suffering terribly. So what we're attempting to do is to educate the public about the merits of adoption at the door, to quell the demand for this. Once the public knows what's really going on behind the pretty storefront, they won't go to pet stores anymore. And I honestly believe that within 10 years, pet stores will go the way of film development stores. Now with the advent of digital cameras, there are no more camera shots of people coming in with their old film. Those stores all went out of business with new technology. Here we're not talking about technology, we're talking about sentient beings. And that, for that very reason, these pet stores will be obsolete in 10 years. The public will learn that there's a new way to bring a companion animal into one's heart and one's home, and that's adoption, and that's the only ethical choice. These stores will go out of business.
That would be an excellent happening.
Along with some legislation, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, tell everybody, you've been doing research about what are the minimum requirements in the United States for the
USDA,
care of these animals, as they're livestock. They're not really, they're products. They're not animals. They're not living beings.
To people who love companion animals, dogs, cats, birds, hamsters,
Rabbits.
To people who love animals, we don't think of them as livestock or as a way to make money.
Objects.
Exactly. They're not products. But in the breeding industry, in the companion animal breeding industry, they consider dogs no differently than people who manufacture vacuum cleaners. So they're like vacuum cleaner parts. We think of them differently. They're not machines. We love them, and they love us back. Not only that, but dogs, for example, help us out in natural disasters. There are myriad ways that animals help us, our health, and so on and so forth. So there are standards that are government regulated for breeding facilities and how they are required to care for these dogs. And if you go to the USDA website and go to the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, which is called APHIS, APHIS, and you look that up on Google, you could read the minimum standards of care in a breeding facility, of which there are over 5,000 licensed ones under the USDA. You can read the minimum standards of care and weep. The dogs are not exercised. They're inspected once a year. They don't have any room in front of them. And I tell everybody this, 6 inches in front of their face. Imagine what it's like to spend your life 6 inches with 6 inches in front of your face. You know, take that puppy mill test. Go stand in front there of a wall for 6 inches, even for 5 minutes, and then imagine what it's like for a breeding dog to live like that. Another thing in the minimum standards of care is that they have to be on an impervious to moisture flooring. I just interviewed Kim Townsend of PetShopPuppies.org about this, and she was telling me that regulation actually hurts these dogs, because before they had a flat resting place where the dogs could walk on a flat surface, and now they're on wire mesh so that the feces and the urine can go down and be collected beneath them, so that they're not covered in feces and urine. Now the urine and the feces goes beneath them and they're hosed out from underneath, or a tray pulls out or something. But these poor animals, they're walking around on wire, and it hurts their feet. You know what dog foot pads are like.
Yeah.
So they don't have a flat place to put their feet. It's appalling how these animals are treated. Just appalling. There's no exercise. Once a year somebody comes around, and I also found out from Kim Townsend that over 50% of the licensed USDA breeding facilities have violations. Over half of them have violations.
Doing business.
They're still doing business.
Yeah, and they will.
So these are the pets. These are the parents of the pets that you, the public, are buying on the internet with these beautiful websites that are completely false, and in pet stores.
You're talking about 50% are in violation, but that's just who they know about. That's not even like,
No.
that's not even who they don't know about, correct?
Precisely.
I mean, we were up in Bakersfield recently. There's a whole bunch of puppy mills up there. We went to a hearing for the Spay Neuter ordinance that we were trying to get them to accept up there, which they're completely backward and idiotic. They have the IQ of fruit there. They're very, they have no sensibility about animals not being property or like a chair of theirs. I mean, it was unbelievable. What we had to hear that day was just appalling. But the fact that this woman was allowed to, there was a woman going in there to try, everyone in the area was against her opening up a breeding facility for a little puppy dog. And everybody came, there were letters, there was all sorts of outrage by the neighbors, etc., contrary to the idea of her being able to do this with the zoning, etc., etc., etc. Nobody was in favor except herself and her lawyer, and they passed it through. This is unbelievable.
The commission in Kern County is very much aware that they have a puppy mill problem right near Los Angeles.
Unbelievable.
They know, because every time they meet, more and more people are applying for permits to build a breeding facility in the center of their 5 acres where they won't disturb neighbors. And it seems like the only thing that could prevent them or preclude them from having an inhumane puppy mill would be that neighbors might hear some barking.
Right.
What about the dogs? What about the dogs? They're barking for a reason. They might be barking to you and me, but I mean, they might be barking to the neighbors, but to those of us who hear their cries, what we're hearing is, hey, get me out of here. I'm in prison here. Get me out. Get me out. They're mean. These people are mean. Get me out. But every time this commission meets, this committee meets, they are approving more and more puppy mills to come into their county. And we've discovered through investigations that LA County, Kern County, this whole area, Southern California, is the puppy mill capital of the West Coast.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
Lancaster, Pennsylvania thought that they had a problem with, I think, if I'm not incorrect, 280 licensed breeding facilities in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I think we've got more right here, right within driving distance of Los Angeles.
It's the Amish in Pennsylvania.
That's right. I know. Unbelievable.
Hello. I know.
Unbelievable.
And it's really, you have to compare it to factory farming. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
The abuse of that are so-called food animals. There's no difference.
Here, we have something coming up for the ballot about the humane treatment of farm animals here.
In California,
and it was like
yeah.
pulling teeth to get people to sign. I did petition gathering
Yeah,
for that.
sure.
Veal stands its whole life.
Yeah.
They can't even.
Yeah. And can they see the
can't
abuse?
walk. They
Hello.
can't turn around.
Can you see the abuse in this?
I mean, and this is not something people are aware of. That's why we're here, and we're out of time now. We're running out of time.
Okay.
We've had. You guys have been just so great, and
Thank you.
the information you brought is just so helpful. And we hope people will get it in their minds, understand that animals are being treated inhumanely on tons of many fronts.
Yes.
Food, puppy mills,
Laboratories.
laboratories. Oh God, that's another one altogether. We talked about that before, Bill. We have to talk about that again. Vivisection.
Adopt, don't buy. That's our
That's right.
slogan.
Don't breed or buy while homeless animals are dying.
That's right.
And a message to pet stores: if you're selling live animals from pet factories, we're coming to you next.
We're coming.
We're coming to you next.
Thank you, Carole. Hello, Moto, and thank you so much. Thank you for coming, Bill. Thank you for
thank you,
Carole.
Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you for
providing
having
this-
us. And please
this
come
service.
back.
Yeah, we will.
I'm just walking my dog, singing my song, strolling along. Oh, it's just me and my dog, catching some sun. We can't go wrong. My life was lonely and blue. Yeah, I was sad as a sailor. I was an angry one too.